Thank you, man. Thank you for the invite. This is going to be fun. My first podcast ever. You're busting my podcast cherry. So
well, I'm actually honored. You know, when I first got into photography, even before I got into photography, and was looking for photographers, you know, that could help me market my business. You were one of the names in Toronto that that was sought after, and one of the photographers that I certainly followed from the beginning as an inspiration. So I'm really excited to have you on and just kind of pick your brain and see what you're up to these days.
Yeah, I remember that. That was like several years ago. You were just getting into photography. You were excited. I think you were doing like the mixed martial arts at the time or something, and your transition to photography, and you had a lot of questions. I'm glad to see it's all progressed for you. You're doing well.
Thank you. Yeah, it's become quite the obsession, as I'm sure you can understand.
Well, you got to be obsessed with it to be good at it, right?
Yeah. So, we talked just a little smidgen there about how I got into photography, but what's your story? Like, how did it start for you?
Oh man. Okay, so I started kind of like with my father. My father was an amateur photographer, so he would walk through the park, and you know, he would shoot photos, and then he would teach me how to shoot too, and then it just kind of became something I was interested in. But officially my career started when I finished university, and then I got a buddy of mine said, hey, you know what, I'm working for this escort company, they're looking for a photographer, you want to shoot? And of course, you know, being like your young 20s, you're like, oh yeah, this is awesome. So I go to my dad. I say, Dad, I need to borrow $3,000. I need to buy a camera. So I bought a Canon 20D at the time. And then I had a Nikon flash and some slave flash. I had no idea what I was doing, right? I was completely out of my depth. I went for the interview, and the boss says, you know, what kind of camera you shoot with? I said, you know, the one with the lenses that come off. I shot when I was a kid, right? And then university days, I didn't shoot at all. And like high school, I didn't shoot at all, or very little. But so I sort of showed up to this thing. I was shooting terrible photos. It was awful. I didn't know what I was doing. But there was this like one girl who came in, and she was really, really sweet, really beautiful. And she was like some flight attendant or something. And she had some eye thing, and she couldn't fly. So she was looking to make some extra money on the side. And so I told her, you know what? My like, I don't know. I'm a good judge of character, and I like to read people. And like all these girls that were shooting at this escort company were just like, they were just addicted to, you know, certain drugs and things. And it was really like, you look in their eyes and you could just see that they're like, their souls were just, you know what I mean? Like that look, like somebody who's almost gone. Yeah. So this girl came in, and she was just young and fresh and beautiful and like spunky. And I convinced her that like, don't work here. Don't show up to work. You know, I'll take these photos, I'll give them to the boss and whatever. And she never showed up. Boss published her photos in the magazines, and everyone was calling for her, but she never showed up. So I'm grateful that, like, I don't know, I steered somebody into a better path, right? Mm-hmm. And of course, you know, it was all a big scam. Like, I never got paid and anything. So it was just a big mess. The photos were terrible. But I like to think that, yeah, I saved one person on that journey, but I got a camera in my hands, right? So that's when I started shooting photos. I started getting into stock and other stuff. And then like photography became like a career from there, right?